everyone, welcome back to the Voice of Dr. Ye, and I'm your host, Dr. Meng Ye, and our guest is Edward Hockman. And in the last section, we've talked about the cyber attacks conducted by China government and its company based in Wuhan, Xiaorui Technology Company, for over 14 years against the Five Eyes countries. So now, U.S., U.K., Australia, New Zealand, and we haven't seen Australia have this published a statement yet, and Canada, they have already announced that to sanction Xiaorui Technology Company as well as some of the alleged defendant who conducted these cyber attacks, which pose the national security of these countries. And also, we further talk about China government's response, which is no surprisingly, of course, to deny, to show that, oh, we are the nice country, oh, you should not blame us, oh, you should respect us, oh, you blame us for nothing we have done. So all like this kind of bullshit, nonsense things. And we also, before we end of the last section, have provide some brief information from the non-disclosed investigative reports about Wuhan Xiaorui Technology Company, which was made by my team with Moodle Media, with our members last summer. And we have provided it to the federal agencies for reference. And we know that from just the pieces of the information, we can know that Xiaorui, this company controlled by Ministry of State Security of CCP as well as China government, have a lot of connections and collaborations through their main members, like the founders, and also working with China to help Russia to develop the engineering technology. And for example, there is another news I want information from the news at that time I want to share with you that so in 2012, under organization of International Exchange Center of the Science of Technology Department of Hubei Province, which is Wuhan city based, the Hubei Laser delegation participated in the 7th International Photonics 2012 of Russia and visited related laser enterprises and the scientific research institute in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and other cities in Russia. And the delegation include the companies like and also organizations, including the Laser Institute of Wuhan, the chairman, and also the professor of Wuhan Huazhong University of Science and Technology. And also the members include the Exchange Center of Science and Technology Department of Hubei Province, the National National Engineering Research Center of Laser Processing of Huazhong University of Science and Technology, Wuhan Huagong Laser Engineering Company, Wuhan Meimen Technology, and Wuhan Xiaorui Company, as well as another company we mentioned, Wuhan HE Laser Engineering Company. So what they have done is the main task of the delegation went to Russia was to strengthen exchanges and cooperation between Hubei province high-tech industries and Russia's science and technology, and to establish cooperation platform to seek the latest scientific and technological achievements in the fields of laser technology, laser cutting and welding of metal materials and optical materials, and to enhance Hubei's level in related industries high-tech level, discuss specific scientific and technological cooperation projects with relevant Russia entities. So this is just one of the information we found about this company and Wuhan, Hubei province government working for China to for CCP to establish this kind of collaboration with Russia. That was over 12 years ago. And since we know the Xiaorui company focused on the cyber attacks, we really need to ask why he joined this laser engineering company to go to exchange and collaborate with Russia, and why the board member of another laser engineering company with Russia, now later become the founder of Xiaoruichi company. So what's the connection? Because we know in China, it's not just I'm the person, I want to establish two companies in different areas, so I can do it.
Yes.
No, this is all civil, military civil fusion, national assigned projects. So, sir, you have a lot of experience working with Soviet Union, the formal issues, and also you definitely know a lot of Russians information. Can you tell us what's your opinion based on all this information between this Chinese company and Russia, and why a cyber tech company could evolve with them?
Well, so it's very interesting because here when I talk about the U.S. lack of a comprehensive strategy with their allies, in fact, what we're seeing with Russia and China is their development of exactly such a strategy. You know, in an article by Frank Fang in the Epoch Times, he notes there is a war without gunpowder and it's happening in cyberspace, as experts say. And he's correct, because this is what you and I have been talking about for the last couple of years here, the cognitive war. It's a war without gunpowder. It's a war of ideas. It's a war of subversion using a variety of different ways and means. And here you see with whether it's lasers, whether it's hypersonics, whether it's cyber, whether it's energy, or even economics, digital currencies, Russia and China are partnering on a variety of these different areas here and expanding their partnerships with other nefarious actors in different nations. Okay. And the U.S. needs to be very concerned about this and stop looking at this in a myopic viewpoint, is one adversary or one nation at a time. We have to take a look at this, is that there is truly a battle between good and evil ongoing here that is global. And we have to decide which side we're on. And hopefully the United States is on the side of good. But we have to start battling these things, because with TikTok, with these cyber aspects, you've also seen, they say in the documents on this massive cache of leaked documents was put out on GitHub, but it goes to a variety of different platforms, from Twitter to Microsoft to Android to Apple. All these different platforms are seeking different ways to collect information here. And what I think the United States national security apparatus continues to miss is that kinetics is not the most critical and viable weapon. It's cognitive, but we have not been able to map the information environment. And what I mean by that is map the environment to understand how to then effectively influence or take advantage of weaknesses. But this is exactly what China has done with TikTok, with the OPM data, with these cyber intrusions. And it's also now doing this with Russia for the last decade, okay? And so they're putting us in a position where they can cause us significant harm. And Americans don't really understand the level and depth of pain we can experience within a few short days if Russia and China just started executing some of these different attack plans, cyber, energy, or others. And this is just one discussion we've had on this and the cyber stuff. But it's a critical discussion because it points out, again, we're sort of playing whack-a-mole and we're not looking at the comprehensive threat here. And neither is NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. I mean, everybody remembers Volt Typhoon, right? Remember the most secure election in 2020? And Volt Typhoon was happening at the same time. And so Chris Krebs, at the time, the director of the Cybersecurity Intelligence Information Agency at DHS, he said about we had the most secure election in history. And at the same time, he had no freaking clue that Volt Typhoon and other aspects are going on. So they're very effective, they're very meticulous, and they have a definitive, multifaceted strategy. And I think we need to get off our rears and start thinking about how do we conduct this war, this ongoing war, because it's a full frontal war by them while we sit back and we play whack-a-mole. Back to you, Dr. Yan.
Thank you, sir. So that comes to another information I want to talk with you, that you see just 1 week ago, before our conversation from 20 March, U.S. government is warning state governors that foreign hackers are carrying out disruptive cyber attacks against the water and sewage systems throughout the country. And National Security Advisor Sullivan and the Environmental Protection Agency's Administrator Reagan warned that disabling cyber attacks are striking water and wastewater systems throughout the United States. And also, it cites that China and Iran are responsible for the potential cyber attacks against the water system. And although they didn't provide more specific information, and also at that time we haven't seen any damage in the system, but it already called on the governors to ensure that all water system in your state comprehensively assess their current cybersecurity practice and prepare for potential cyber incidents. So this is definitely, as what we have read through the unrestricted warfare, we have seen this kind of similar tactics, which is combined the terrorism and also can manage to avoid the traditional war attacks, this kind of concept to launch the very damageable attacks against the enemy's country. And this is conducted already stressed by U.S. government, by Iran and Chinese Communist Party. So very clearly, if it happened in the water or wastewater system, this is very difficult to be controlled, and it will definitely involve large scale of civil people as well as Americans military. I would say it would be involved, and also even the wildlife and the animals, their lives. So such evil things it almost happened in the United States, and we don't know whether the threat still lasts or U.S. government can manage to eliminate. But for me, I don't think it will be easy to eliminate such threat in a short period, especially when you face on China. Now, sir, suddenly after 1 week, we see in Baltimore Bridge, the incident happened. It also involved water. I don't want to connect them together. I just say that it's very suspicious that also related to the electronic problems. And what do you think when we see all this kind of information all come out, all pose the threat to our daily life? What's your feeling? What do you want to say?
Well, I think our members of Congress and our national security apparatus and the American public need to wake up. We're on a wartime footing with China, and there's only one side that's aware of that. That's China, along with their allies, Russia, Iran, and other miscreants. When you take a look at what's happening here, what do they have in common? Fuel, food, and water. What's required for substance for people to survive anywhere in the United States or the world? Fuel, food, and water. And so whether the barge was purposeful or not, they'll continue to investigate. And if it was purposeful, we'll never probably find that out. But it is very suspicious. But when you take a look at the Chinese spy balloon, when you take a look at Palestine, Ohio train derailment, you take a look at the disruption at food processing plants across the United States. If the American military is going to be dependent upon, then I have news for the American public. Get over it. You're going to have to depend on yourselves, your family, and friends. Now, why is that? Because in an actual cyber attack and war, where our food, fuel, and water is disrupted, what little fuel there is available for military, you have to use to then deploy some of those aspects of National Guard. But as we saw with the Keystone Pipeline shutdown, most of the Washington, D.C. area, military included, were shut down, not able to travel, not able to get to their workplace, okay? So if you have this major disaster and you actually have just even a targeted regional attack like here in the East Coast, as I said before, the amount of impact could be significant. Now, why is that important? Because people focus on the kinetic war. People focus on the bombs, the hypersonics, the artificial intelligence. But at the same time, if you take and look for the weak underbelly from Sun Tzu, where's the weakest points? Okay, it's our infrastructure, it's our water supplies, it's our sewage systems, it's our food supplies. Okay, and it doesn't take much to figure out where the main arteries for that are, or what the main contributors to that are, and therefore to shut those down. And when you have 70,000 military-aged Chinese men now in the United States, and they can deploy those folks throughout the United States, okay, think of the disruption and sabotage they could cause. They could cripple the United States and take us out of action for months, if not years, or a decade or more, okay? And economically, if something like that happened, okay, it would buttress China and Russia significantly. Now, why is this important? Because you have to consider these types of potential scenarios because they're real and our adversaries are real. China right now has significant economic troubles and other things. They will do anything they need to do to sustain their power base, including attacking the United States in these various ways. Why? Because it's very hard to do continued attribution across these multiple fronts. And secondly, what's the consequence? Are we going to start a nuclear war over that? Probably not. So at the same time, then what kind of consequence will China face if they do these types of activities? Okay, they know that there's very little that the United States can come back and do. We're not going to invade China, right? So people need to wake up. Our lawmakers need to wake up, and we need to start taking a look at what our national security apparatus can actually do to proactively engage, defeat, and impede these efforts. Back to you, Dr. Yan.
Yes, thank you. And since we have talked so much about the threat posed by China, and we advocate for so long that want Americans to wake up and to think about how to deal with this threat and how to protect yourself, not only in a very reactive way, but actively do something, because if not, it will be late. However, at the same time, let's see another news come from the China's state-owned global media in English, CGTN, that was posted on 23rd March, which is one of the series of related report. It says that visiting U.S. students forge lasting friendships through cultural exchange in China. Dozens of U.S. students are on a visit to multiple cities in China from March 17 to 27 to experience Chinese culture and technology and continue the friendship between the people of the two countries. I was so excited as I've never experienced this, and I feel like it is such a cool thing that a student from Steilacoom High School. I don't know much about the Chinese culture, but seeing a lot of other people trying to understand and communicate and getting to know what they do is really interesting, the kid said. And so this student, I just don't want to mention the name, although they mentioned the student's name in the report. So the student is part of a group of 24 students from Lincoln High School and Steilacoom High School in the United States of Washington, who are on their first visit to China. In Beijing, they visited landmarks such as Great Wall and the Forbidden City. The journey began following Chinese President Xi Jinping's announcement last November, inviting 50,000 young Americans to China over the next 5 years. So this is what China Foreign Study University scholars explain. He said, people-to-people exchanges are an important part of China-U.S. relations. The more flights, merchant ships, cargo ships, tourists and students and scholars cross the Pacific Ocean, the stronger the foundation for the development of bilateral relations. So clearly, this is part of CCP's propaganda operation. And as they have mentioned in this article, they said, as for people-to-people exchanges between the two countries, ping-pong diplomacy and panda diplomacy have stood out and continued all along. However, in the previous episode, I have wrote about the ping pong diplomacy, that it is actually, according to our sources, it's a covert operation conducted by CCP's International Liaison Department, which is also called the Secret Agent Department, to establish the relation with U.S. government through ping pong, through the athlete, through so-called friendship, and then little by little to establish the diplomatic relation with U.S. in 1970s. And after that, we have seen in the past 4 decades, the infiltration from CCP to U.S. become more and more worse. And until now, we have to spend so much effort to handle the issues like whack-a-mole. So, sir, what do you think when you see this kind of innocent student invited by China to visit them and they enjoy the trips? And I believe Soviet Union has done the similar things, right? And what happened at that time?
No, yeah. So it's a great question, and it's a very important point here because this is how you conduct effective cognitive war. Not only with TikTok and 150 to 170 million users in the United States, and you've seen the effective diplomacy and lobbying the Chinese government has undertaken to then paint everyone who's using TikTok as just purely innocent and such, which they are. But they don't talk about the underlying aspects of the platform. And in this case here, the grooming of younger minds and indoctrination of younger minds, just as I went to the former Soviet Union, there are riches of culture around the world. It doesn't mean the riches of culture can be enjoyed because of the subjugation, but they don't see that subjugation. They don't see the genocide. They don't see the attacks. They don't see the imprisonment. And so they put out the Potemkin village for these young students here who come back and espouse the wonders and relationships they have. Little do these children know, this is all part of the grooming aspect and indoctrination aspect in the cognitive world to bring them into line with thinking that China is not their enemy, okay? And China is not their enemy. In fact, it's the leadership of China that are. The people of China are just other citizens like other free world citizens seeking to be free. But it's a very effective grooming strategy. And so you'll see this attack in the cognitive realm take place across multiple platforms. Not only TikTok, you see the trolls and the honeypots, and you see that on all the social media platforms. Okay, it's continued and persistent. You see the same type of BS sort of ping pong diplomacy with our business leaders who are so willing to sell the rope to hang themselves on, using the old phrase Lenin and the Soviet Union, by going to Taiwan, I'm going to China, and bowing before Xi, okay, to get business deals. You've seen our own governor, Newsom in California, line the streets with China flags, CCP flags, not one U.S. flag in sight. Clean the streets up from the homeless and druggies, not for the people of California, but for a genocidal dictator. This is the effectiveness of China's cognitive war. When they get U.S. businessmen, U.S. governors, and U.S. politicians to do their bidding, okay, we have some major issues here. And that's really where we're at right now. An effective cognitive war. People don't realize we only had about 200 students in China last year, and they had 350,000 here in the United States. Back to you, Dr. Yen.
Thank you, sir. So yes, but for me, another thing I can't believe is why until now still this kind of visiting between U.S. schools and China is kind of allowed in the U.S. because China clearly is using these honeypots to trap your next generation. It's like they provide, as you said, like fantastic word in China to chase the kids and to impress them about so-called Chinese culture, which they only show the Disney-like fancy part, which they never show you the real darkness. And also, these kids are cultivated, brainwashed in China, and later they would be influenced by China and also the pro-CCP campaigns following the trips in the future to be kind of cultivated as pro-communist and anti-U.S. value generation, even though this is only maybe 1%, but 50,000, that means 500 students will be cultivated. Or there will be more and they could influence people around them. So this would pose a very big potential threat to US in the future. Also, as we know that Xi Jinping always tells the people around him that we need to get not only old friends but also new friends. And he also explained to people around him that friends doesn't mean those you can buy using money. Those are not reliable people. What we need are people who can share the same value, who understand Chinese culture, who can behave as what we do. So
Yes.
that means he is using the deep mind control, using the ideology, using this culture things to cover it up to find out people who would work for communist China, work for Xi Jinping's Great China rejuvenation, China dream in the future. And if one day the young generation, they are successfully cultivated by China at that, then it will be like U.S. Soviet Union cultivated Chinese communist members in China
Yes.
in the past 100 years. That's crazy. So yeah, so now we have to finish our conversation. But sir, could you spend like 1 minute to let people know your additional opinions in this episode?
Yes. Yes, thank Dr. Yan. So what do we do about this? Okay, so quickly, we need to develop a strategy, a whole government, whole society strategy, okay, to counter China and do it with our allies. We need to develop specific proactive actions from our understanding and make multiple dilemmas, costly dilemmas for China. We have to have a specific implementation plan and synchronize it with our allies, political, military, covert, okay? We have to refine our operational framework and overhaul our national security apparatus to be able to conduct cognitive war, which we cannot right now. And lastly, we need to change our one China policy to one free China, okay? And we need to bring back the shining light on the hill for freedom for all people, because the Chinese people, I think, are ready to rise up, but we have to give them the means and methods and support to be able to do that, to get rid of this dictatorial regime. Thank you, Dr. Yan.
Thank you so much, sir. It's always great to talk with you. In the America Out Loud Radio Network, we'll play our episode on air every Saturday and Sunday. Also, iHeartRadio will play it on air at the same time. And after that, you will listen to our broadcast through various apps like Pandora, Spotify, and Google Podcast for free. Thank you.